Hi friends, and welcome back to Jewelry with Jen. I am back with a different project today. I was trying to finish up working on some of my Southwestern inspired stuff, and I wanted to make a piece for myself. So welcome aboard, everybody. This will probably be a pretty quick tutorial. I've strung most of the work, but we're going to be doing just a little bit something different. I thought I would share for those of you that do not know how to work with doing double strands, and we're going to use some leather cord today and tie it. And these gemstones work very, very well together. If you're into gemstones and mixing up and what goes with what, these three, for the meanings and the properties of these gemstones, work very well together. And so this is what I have. I've got that filigree pendant on the bottom. And I've done something similar that I did to that triple strand I showed you on show and tell. I used double jump rings here, one more jump ring, another jump ring, and then attach that to the filigree pendant. So that's kind of cool. Just a different look. And then the little cute center strand here, guys, very similar to what you saw on my triple strand on show and tell. But what I did was I added, so we did the apricot and the amazonite here, and then I just did three really cute little rondelle spacers that they're kind of like a two-tone, and or rondelle faceted beads. And then we've got two more of our Aventrine here, like clasps, copper clasps, but we can use them for lots of things, right? And in this case, we are going to be using these to connect the leather and the strands together. Use it, but you know me, I'm going to go to my Loctite gel control. It's my favorite, just to give it a little extra security. And that is it for our supplies. So okay guys, so all I have to do is I'm just going to finish off my last strand here. So I'll feed on my crimp, and just in case you guys are not familiar with crimping, well, that's a weird crimp. You know, I have had so many of these magical crimps that are just complete duds. So crazy. For those of you that have not gotten comfortable enough as yet with crimping using wire guardians, it's really simple. That's why I left the one strand. I'll put a link in the video to my Jewelry 101 series playlist. There's a video in that playlist about wire guardians, and I break it down and I give you a nice thorough overview and step-by-step of how to utilize wire guardians. But again, you know, because we are using gemstones, I'm using wire guardians and tiger tail. Wire guardians to protect my wire, obviously, from friction, and to give me that little extra oomph of security that I need. So that's the planogram. That's how it's playing out. And then, of course, as per usual, I am putting my beads kind of in a little half circle here to make sure they're lined up, and I've got those that nice and tight, and we're good to go. And I'll go ahead and crimp that off. Anyway, okay, so that's what we've got. Okay, so we've got both of our strands. I'll pull them right on up here for you, get them in my hands. Okay, so we've got all four of our strands finished with the wire guardians there and the crimps. Okay, and again, if you're doing a double strand like this, you're just going to, you know, as you're stringing your beads, and you have your wire here still, just basically, you know, kind of put the tops of each side as close as you can get them there, and then decide the width between the two that you want, you know, the length, if you want it to be, you know, right on top, or, you know, a little bit further away. And I have just about around 3/4 of an inch or so of space between my strands, which I like. So it works for me in terms of your findings. So I opened up my jump ring, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to feed on the wire guardian my inside strand first, okay? And then, because I'm working on the left side right now, and then I'm going to feed on my outer strand, okay? I'm just making sure that it's the right direction, although it's not going to matter. It can turn either way. Okay, and so I've got both the strands on there. Okay, and now we'll go ahead and we're going to add that toggle. And just feed the toggle right on last. And then we'll close this up. I'm using 18 gauge, so they're nice and thick. My jump rings are 18 gauge, 6mm, nice and thick. So they're going to support all this weight. So you'll want to use, you know, some 18 gauge. I would not recommend like using like 21 gauge, you know, those thinner jump rings. I would not recommend if you're using gemstones such as I am and your beads are heavy. So that's what we've got there, and we're going to do the same thing over on the other side. So we will grab a jump ring, we'll just open that up, and now we're going to do just the opposite of what we did over here. So first we are going to feed, first we're going to feed on that toggle, so it's on the outside, and then we'll feed on the outer strand and then the inner strand. So just be mindful when you're putting them on your jump rings that you're feeding them on exactly the way that you did on the other side, the opposite. That way they hang correct, it hangs correctly. And now we'll close up our jump ring. Okay, very good. And now this is what we have. Okay, so you see there, I've got everything strung on the jump ring, strung on the connector, and they are hanging perfectly. Okay, so now guys, what we do is, I already did this, so I have my clip here. You just put this around your body and then measure your cord, your leather, whatever you're using. Okay, so I already measured, and right here is where I need to cut mine. Oops, I forgot my scissors. And that's all you need is a pair of scissors. And so I'll just remove my clip, and that's right there is where I'm gonna go ahead and cut mine, and so that'll be my scrap. And so now you have your piece of leather. Okay, and so what you do is just we make a simple knot, guys. So I'm gonna put my leather through my connector, and then I am going to make a simple knot. I usually go up and then back around and down. And then what I do is I kind of pull it. I kind of hold the tail of it because I don't want much of a tail. So I kind of go and like this, you know, I'm just holding that one side and trying to make that as small as possible. We need a little bit hanging out, but not much. And then I'll pull this down. And so then now I'm just holding this part of the leather and then the leather that's on my toggle. And kind of, I guess, getting it centered there. So I kind of have it centered directly above my jump rings there. Okay, and then now I'm just pushing it down and just making that knot really, really tight. And now what you can do is you can take your E6000 or your super glue or whatever you want to use, and then we're going to go right in between the knot, and I'm just going to put literally a dab and it's literally a dab. And I'm just kind of going like that and pushing it in there, in the center there of that leather, and then I'll go ahead and continue to pull it just a little bit more, holding the tail and the top, and it'll dry. And we're going to do the same thing over here. So now we'll pull our leather around over to the other side. And let me just make sure I'm not tangled up here. Around and go from the back to the front through my connector here. And same thing. I'm going to make a little simple knot. And I usually put it underneath the tail, underneath the longer piece, and go up and around over like that. And all I want to do is try to kind of match up my tail to the other side. And so I'm just pulling again the top, pushing the knot down the same time. I'm gonna pull it to the center where it is, my leather is directly above where my the center my jump ring is. Looks about even. And then I'm going to just grab a smidge of glue, put it in between my knot. And then I'll just take the tail and the top and pull it a little bit more. And then that glue will set. And believe me, that knot is not going anywhere. And then there is what we have. Let me pull it up for you and show. So pretty. And then we've got our connectors here with the leather on it. And it can slip just right over the head. Or like I said, we can cut this, you know, just kind of even it out and find your center. And right here at the center, at the top of the leather, I could cut that. And then I can literally tie it off and on each time I wear it. So how cool is that, right, guys? Fun little easy project.